Hi, have you ever wanted to jump headfirst into a wood chipper without any worry of actually getting hurt from it? How about throwing an electrical appliance into a tub while you take a bath? How about participating somewhat in the 2018 Tide Pod Challenge? Or how about jumping off of a bell tower where when you hit the ground, you just wake up in your bed like nothing happened? You're just a video game character respawning after dying over and over again. Well, if you've ever wanted to do any of these things in your life, first of all, I'd be a little concerned. But more importantly, I think you'd enjoy these two horror movies, which I find to be a tad underrated. They're called Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day to You. It's a story about a girl who keeps dying every single day and keeps reliving that same day over and over again. If you've never heard of them, or even if you have, strap in because you're in for a treat today. A good old cupcake of a treat. Let's talk about Happy Death Day. Spoilers ahead. Get it? Because this is a Groundhog Day movie. The day resets, hence the logo resetting. That's so funny. Anyway, so the movie starts out with our main character, Tree, waking up in a random dorm room owned by a dude named Carter. Apparently, Tree got super wasted the night before, which, by the way, was a Sunday night. That's an insane night to party. I totally would know. I party all the time. But she's definitely hungover and has to do the walk of shame back to her sorority, passing by a lot of very memorable things that I'm sure won't come up later. But then she pisses me off by walking on the grass. There is a perfectly fine walking path right there. I saw you use it before, so I know you can use it. But whatever, I guess. It's fine. Totally not mad. Yeah, can I just say, underrated character. We need more positive-minded people like her, especially in this movie. Anyway, then we meet Danielle, where I get PTSD from when I watched Sorority Wars. Except now, this is the PG-13 version.
Sisters don't keep secrets.
Seriously, it was nobody.
I hope nobody used a condom. We don't want somebody looking like a whore.
Thanks, Danielle.
What are sisters for?
Then we meet her roommate Lori, who's honestly such a good friend by remembering that it's Tree's birthday and even makes her a cupcake. She's honestly a really good person in this movie. Also, she's a nurse at the hospital. That'll be important later. But we find out that Tree not only woke up in Carter's dorm, but also made out with Daniel's crush last night and is sleeping around with one of her professors. In other words, she is a bit of a slightly exploitative individual who is just trying to get life experiences with multiple people. Really saved that one, huh?
What's wrong?
Oh, I don't know. What's wrong, Tree?
Nothing, except for that cat lady buffet you just dumped at our table.
And is that chocolate milk I see?
Sorry, Danielle. Maybe it's just my hearing, but do you have a fucking problem with chocolate milk? Is that what I heard? Chocolate milk is delicious, and I will not take that kind of slander here. Now, that said, that chocolate milk looks a little too liquidy. I don't know about that one. I don't know if I drink that one. Also, talking about what Tree says here.
Except for that cat lady buffet you just dumped at our table.
And then also here.
Look, Tree, it's none of my business, but you're right. It is none of your business.
Yeah, she's not the nicest person. In fact, she's a bit of a beautifully misunderstood person who probably has her own struggles and insecurities that she's trying to work through every day. And we should acknowledge and respect that. Anyway, despite her helping her professor cheat on his wife, she does do a sick dude perfect trick shot with the chair. Like, that was actually insane. Then later that night, Tree heads off to her surprise birthday party. It's here where we truly get introduced to their school mascot, which is the creepiest fucking baby mask I've ever seen. In whose methodically messed up mind was like, oh yeah, this is the mascot we want, that'll sell merch. What? But Tree finds her way to this underground tunnel, because that's apparently how you get to the frat house, and finds a music box playing in the middle of it. Now, I am not here at all to victim blame by any means, because those who have watched knows what happens next. But why the fuck would you continue to go down that path if you saw that shit? I would be halfway to frickin' Guam if I saw that while I'm walking around alone at night. But she decides to walk towards it anyway, where the killer in the baby mask comes out of nowhere and pulls some Batman shit and eventually kills her. But then she wakes back up, back in Carter's dorm at the beginning of the movie, and this is where we truly begin the story. Basically, Tree is stuck in a time loop on her birthday where it resets every time she dies. So she has to figure out who is trying to kill her and stop him or her before they do it again. Zap. So she goes through the same day, feeling major deja vu, and learning not to go down the creepy tunnel with the music box. Which, side note, why did the killer think that would work? I mean, I guess it did the first time, but like, were they just thinking, oh yeah, Tree will definitely go down there by herself at that specific point in time. Let me just wind the music box like 3 minutes, okay? That should be long enough. Oh shit. Oh, she just left her dorm? Damn it, that's like a 5-minute walk from here. Okay, fuck, I gotta rewind it. Anyway, she goes a different route this time and ends up to the party and goes upstairs with the dude Danielle likes because once again, Tree is a slightly exploitative person. And then my man does this.
Welcome to the Pleasure Dome.
And then dies. Thank God, that shit was cringe AF. Then Tree dies again, and I die from confusion at Apple's UI. Why does her notification look like that when on the first day it looked like this? Like, how did she miss the call the first time when it took pretty much the same time for her to pick up the phone the second day? Later in the movie, it looks like this. Why are there so many different ways to show a call, Apple? I don't understand. So then she tries talking to Lori about what's happening to her, and it's here where I have a slight story problem, okay? So on the first day, Lori gives her a cupcake because she found out from Tree's license that it was her birthday. Tree was like, oh, who told you? Showing that Lori didn't know before. But in this scene, Lori says,
I know that today is hard with your mom and all.
so you're telling me that Lori knew Tree's mom died and that they share the same birthday, but that she didn't know when her birthday actually was? Story ain't really storying there, is it? Regardless, this time she tries barricading herself in her room, only to die again. So she starts to lose her mind, as you can tell by the prism blur effect they put on the film. And then finally, she brings Carter into the fold and tells him what's been happening. So he helps her come up with a list of people who might want to kill her, which is pretty much everyone because she's a beautifully misunderstood person. We also find out that her and Carter didn't do anything at his dorm.
For the record, I didn't take advantage of you last night, okay? I slept on Ryan's bed.
So we didn't have.
No, you were wasted last night. I was afraid you were gonna fall or choke on your own vomit like Janis Joplin.
Wow, way to fall for Carter for literally doing the bare minimum and doing what every single guy should have done in that situation. Granted, given society today, that shit's probably harder to come by than it should be. So there's that. Then we go into montage mode, where she takes a couple days to try and find the killer. She finds out that this guy's gay, dies by a bus, walks around naked just for the fun of it, and then dies one more time that leads to this really cool transition shot. I gotta give credit to the movie when I want to give credit to it. Then we find out that dying over and over again is slowly killing her every time. Trust me, that sentence makes sense.
Contact with your parents, but for some reason there's... Jeez.
Doctor Man, why you gotta scare me like that? Man, this is supposed to be a dumb horror, not an actual horror. But she escapes the hospital, only to die again, in a pretty brutal way, might I add, after this cop gets made one with the pavement. And it's here where I want to give credit to the score really quick. You know, for a fairly comedy horror-like movie, the music is pretty scary and unique. I like it a lot. Good job, movie. I like it. Then Tree starts to crash out and says this to Carter's roommate, Ryan.
Dude, you hit that.
Hi, I'm the so-called fine vagina. If that's the way that you refer to girls, you and your hand are going to have a very lasting relationship. Have a nice day.
Damn, Tree, what did Ryan ever do to you? That's a foreshadowing joke. If you know, you know. Or I guess it's technically pre-shadowing, if you really think about it. Spoiler, Ryan did something to cause all of this. You'll find out in the next movie. Anywho, Tree and Carter then have a heart-to-heart, which I gotta say, and this is again where this movie gets credit, the emotional moments actually play out really well. They talked about her mom and how she feels like she failed her, and then he talks about how every day is a new day to be a better person, and it was actually a touching scene that they let breathe. I think we could all agree that this is a pretty dumb horror movie, one where you would probably have to turn off your brain and accept it for what it is, kind of like the Babysitter movie movies for those of you who watched that video. By the way, for those who did watch that video, thank you. I fucking love you. But I really appreciate that there's a few touching moments in here that are actually touching and aren't ruined by a joke or something. Anyway, at the end of the scene, Tree finds out that there's a serial killer taken to the hospital whose main targets are blonde girls around her age. So naturally, she thinks he's the killer and decides to go after him. Problem is, Carter decides to show how big and strong he is and goes with her, only to die immediately. So instead of stopping the killer, she decides to die once more to make sure Carter's death isn't permanent. Side note, I know I said I liked the music before, and it's great here too. It actually sounds a lot like the horror game Outlast, for those of you who've played that game. By the way, I stream now, twitch.tv/Aaron_Compton. I'm actually thinking of playing Outlast over there pretty soon. And yeah, I don't care if I'm plugging it. I ain't got no shame. Also subscribe. Seriously, I dare you. In fact, you know what? Please like the video. Please comment down below your favorite dumb horror movie or your favorite dumb horror game that you would want me to play on stream, and freaking hit that subscribe button. I dare you. I dare you to do all three of those things. Please. Please subscribe. I'm desperate over here, please. Then we get another montage-like scene where she does what I consider to be the classic trope in these time loop movies, where she does everything correctly and tries to live a perfect day. She lets gay guy down easy, she breaks up with doctor guy, who ends up being an even bigger dick than we thought. She stands up for chocolate milk girl, as she should, and then finally goes and sees her dad who's been calling her all day and has a touching moment with him. By the way, can we all agree that Tree had A+ character growth? I mean, she went from being a pretty terrible person to a complete badass, and it all felt natural too, at least to me. Once again, good job, movie. I like it. Then she suits up like how I picture any Disney Channel girl suiting up in an action movie. Leather jacket, ponytail, and a sick pink watch. This is not a diss, by the way. I genuinely like the fit. Then she takes the police officer guarding the killer hostage, aka Primo, or Negan, from Walking Dead. You know, if I had a nickel for every time this actor is taken hostage in a movie or TV show, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird it happened twice. But this time, Tree is successful and is able to thwart the killer, killing him herself. Thwart is a hard word to say. Then she finally celebrates her birthday with Carter and has the cupcake that Lori made her, and the movie ends happily ever after. Except, uh-oh, it doesn't. She wakes up for an 11th time because she died in her sleep. And it's here where she realized that in all the past 10 days, she never ate the cupcake. Meaning that it was Lori who has been trying to kill her this whole time, using the serial killer to help her do so because she's a nurse and had easy access to him. Apparently, Lori was jealous of Tree and Dr. Man. Kinda crazy to poison her because of it, but whatever. People be crazy.
I know I've been a bad roommate, but isn't this a bit much?
Maybe because you wouldn't stop sleeping with him.
Gregory?
Guess all you wanted was a cheap slut like you.
She said it. I didn't say it. I said slightly exploitative and beautifully misunderstood. I never said that. She said it.
You've been killing me over some stupid guy?
Then Tree does a totally unnecessary hang from the ceiling fan, and Spartan kicks Lori out of the window, leading to Lori's death and finally breaking the loop.
Lori's little plot was super lame. Poisoning a cupcake? Really? We're Kappas. We don't eat cupcakes.
Heh. Good one, Danielle. You're my favorite character. Anyway, the movie actually ends with Tree waking up again in Carter's dorm, only for it to be Carter completely messing with her. Which, can I just say, I'm glad she took it well, but if someone did that to me after all of that, I would absolutely crash out and beat the shit out of them. Or at the very least, give them a strongly worded letter. So that was Happy Death Day, and honestly, it's a ton of fun. It's got some good laughs, it's got some good scares at times, but with some good heartwarming moments as well. These movies definitely do give the same vibes as the Babysitter movies, like that kind of horror comedy style, which I really like. Once again, shout out to those of you who watched the Babysitter video. Once again, I fucking love you. But now we must move on to the sequel, which brings this whole franchise to a whole other dimension. Literally. Let's get into Happy Death Day to You. Moving on to the long-awaited sequel, actually not that long, it was only 2 years after the first one. Happy Death Day to You does something that not enough sequels do. It has a creative sequel title. But this movie starts off with Ryan, the roommate of our good friend Carter. I actually really appreciate this trope where they give side characters bigger roles in the next movies. I like that. But it shows his perspective of waking up in his car the day after what happened in the first movie. But we find out that he has created this quantum vortex mechanical spike ball thingy that may or may not do something to tear the fabric of time and space. But he goes into the room that looks a lot like the post-credit scene at the end of Amazing Spider-Man and dies by the same babyface killer. Or so we think. And what do you know? He wakes up again in his car, reliving the same day. Then he talks to Carter and Tree about what he's experiencing, and they realize he's now stuck in the loop because of his device called the Sissy that caused the time loop. And then they do a recap segment of the first movie, which makes me question why I even bothered with the first 10 minutes of this video. So they try to help him stop his killer, which they actually do pretty quickly, only to find out that his killer is himself from another dimension trying to stop him from using the device again. Or something like that. Honestly, this is where I kind of got lost in the movie, I won't lie. Basically, we are now dealing with the multiverse, and they try to explain how it works, but honestly, it's just a giant convoluted mess, so instead, I'm gonna explain it by using the jingle that Family Guy uses to explain men. Multiverse, it doesn't make any sense. Anyway, so they do some boopity boppity on the computer and it blows up, sending Tree all the way back to her birthday. She has now come full circle back to how it was in the first movie. And so she crashes out, which is honestly so valid. If there was ever to be a valid crash out, this would be the one.
Hey, you haven't returned any. You are gay!
Anyway, there's a few things off about this day compared to the last movie. And it's here where we find out that not only did Tree get sent back to her birthday, but her birthday in a different universe. One where Lori wasn't the killer, where Danielle is a nicer bitch, but still a bitch. I can say bitch to her. And she's dating Carter, which definitely threw Tree for a loop. A time loop. I'm sorry. Please subscribe to have me never make a bad joke like that ever again. I promise I will never make a joke that bad again if you subscribe. Maybe. But I actually think this is a really smart idea for a number of reasons. Reason one, if you're someone like me, you can tell when they refilm stuff because the lighting might be different, people don't look exactly the same and everything, there's just slight inconsistencies. So to have it be a different universe that's slightly different and looks slightly different actually makes narrative sense and solves the slight inconsistencies that I would notice. So I like how they handled that. It also means that we can have a brand new killer and a brand new mystery. Then we learn that Tree has never seen Back to the Future, which makes her a red flag. She also says at the end of the first movie that she's never seen Groundhog Day. Now granted, I haven't fully seen Groundhog Day either. I know some of you will come at me with your pitchforks in the comments, but I at least know what it is. I know what it's about. I've seen clips of it before. She acts like she's never even heard of these movies before. So for me, that is a red flag. I don't care how badass she is. That said, I do like that the movie is self-aware enough to mention the movies they base these ones on, because while I like these movies a lot, we can all agree this isn't a brand new original idea. By the way, comment down below, what is your favorite time loop movie? What is your favorite Groundhog Day like movie? Let me know. Maybe I'll review it sometime. Anyway, the biggest difference we find out is that Tree's mom is alive in this universe. So now, instead of trying to go back to her universe, she wants to stay in this one to be with her mom. So now, just like the first one, she has to solve who's trying to kill her, finding out that this time it isn't Lori because Lori gets killed herself. Tree also uses the help of Ryan and his science friends to help find a way to close the loop, with Tree having to memorize all of their trials and notes since they won't remember come the next day. Because of this, she has to die over and over again. So instead of dying by the killer every time, she comes up with her own crazy methods of doing so, leading to some very interesting shots. Also, the fact that she was able to plan out where she jumped and where she landed is crazy. I know this is a movie, but still I have to point it out. But we don't know for sure how long she's been doing this, but she does say it's been weeks at one point. For context, in the first movie, I believe she died 11 times. I think she even says that at one point. Regardless, it leads to her getting weak once again and ending up in the hospital where Dr. Man jump scares me again. Stop doing that. And then she dies again. Shocker. Still a badass though. Then we see how much she's learned from reliving the same day with these nerds. And I do appreciate when people take advantage of their time loops to become experts at things. I love that trope. But what I love even more is that they make it sort of clear that Tree did memorize all this, but still has no idea what any of it means. It would have been a bit much if she mastered quantum mechanics in like the 3 weeks she's been there. Anyway, they actually find the solution to either closing the time loop or going back to her dimension. So she has to make a decision on if she wants to stay in this dimension or go back to her own. So she decides that she wants to stay here so that her mom can live. But Carter doesn't like that idea because he feels she'll be living a lie and also letting the people in the hospital die when the serial killer escapes. So after another really good heart-to-heart with her mom and seeing that Carter died at the hospital later that night, Tree decides that he's right and she should go home to her own dimension. So surprise, surprise, she dies again. Then she goes to right some wrongs, apologizing to Lori since she's dead in her own world, so this is her only chance to talk to her, and then saying goodbye to her mom again in one of the most bittersweet and emotional scenes that makes me so shocked that they were able to pull it off in this relatively goofy horror movie. It's actually insane how good those emotional scenes are. That said, we then get to the final part of this movie that throws all logic and meaning out the window. First, this professor guy comes and takes away the sissy device, which doesn't make a lot of sense since he hasn't come by before today in this universe. Maybe it's because they turned it on so he noticed the power outages, I don't know. Then there's this whole heist mission to steal it back that includes this scene.
Pardon, I appear to be very lost. May I know your face?
I'm sorry? Oh, my.
I don't know. But then Tree goes to save Lori because she realizes that the killer was never after her. He was always going after Lori. The professor finds out that they stole the device back and runs like he's got something stuck up his ass. And then there's a totally overly dramatic moment of the nerds keeping out security officers from the room with the device. It's kind of weird. But we find out that the killer is the doctor guy, Gregory. Oh shit. But it's because him and Lori were having an affair and his wife found out, so he needed to kill her. Which I guess makes sense. But what doesn't is the surprise twist. His wife is helping him kill her, which I don't get at all. Why would his wife help him kill the girl he was having an affair with? I get him wanting to kill her. I even more get the wife wanting to kill her, but why work together? Shouldn't the wife be mad at him? I don't know. Am I missing something there? Comment down below. Anyway, the wife says this,
Gregory! Kill her!
and then proceeds to slowly pace for a bit before actually doing anything. I don't know why. Then what he does do is shoot his own wife and says this.
I want a divorce.
What the fuck is happening? Anyway, Tree does finally kill Gregory in a pretty cool way using the MRI machine. I don't know if that's actually how it works, but who cares? It looked cool. But it ends with Tree saving Lori, keeping Carter alive, and then going back home to her own dimension. Once again, after a pretty overly dramatic scene with the professor and the security officers once again. Pretty kissing scene though. Now, if you thought it was over, oh no, it only gets better. Basically, the 5 main characters all get taken by the government with questions about using the sissy device to field test someone going into a time loop. And Tree decides to elect one person for that job. None other than our friend, Danielle. And that's how it ends. Guys, you let me know how you would want a third movie of this to play out based on that premise. But guys, those were the 2 Happy Death Day movies. I honestly really enjoyed both of them. I do feel like the second one was worse, but only really near the end. I thought most of the movie was pretty damn good. But let me know what you guys think. Do you like or hate these movies? And are there other movies like this that you enjoy, or ones that you would want me to cover someday? Just let me know. But guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an incredible rest of your day, and I will see you all in the next one.